So choosing the sex of your child is inhumane. You're taking the natural process of having a child away. When you choose the sex of your child, there's major flaws that come with it, as having resentment to your decision in the future. Whereas you take the natural process, you don't have that resentment or that regret. Elective sex selection is dangerous when it comes to our society as well. Different cultures prefer different genders, and this decision to choose the gender of your child can cause an imbalance, and this can also be taken as an issue of sexism. Not only is the process of choosing the sex of your child unethical, the discarding of extra embryos is said of the unwanted sex is even more unethical. This whole process has never been said as a completely accurate process. Imagine the problems that go along with you finding out that after all of this process, the child that you chose to have is not actually the sex that you wanted. There's so many problems with that. Resentment, parents giving up on the child, hating the child for this, all possible things could happen to this child. And you pay such a large amount of money for this, with no guarantee that the procedure is succeeding or being accurate. So with all that said, we do not agree with parents being allowed to choose the sex of their child.
Okay, go ahead, when you guys are ready.
Okay, so imagine a world without disease, illness, and disorders. Every individual would be thriving at his or her highest potential. Our bodies would be strong and we would excel in everything we do. Sex selection is just a stepping stone to achieving this goal that people only dream about. If we are able to prevent a disease, a disorder, or any birth defects before they are even born or created, wouldn't you? Also, the abortion rate would immediately be affected and would significantly decrease. Yes, this may not be a natural way, but neither is abortion. As a parent, wouldn't you want to give your child his or her best fighting chance so that nothing would hinder them from doing or being whatever they wanted to be? In that case, this unnatural action stems from the natural. It is linked to human nature, our nature to protect, to advance, to obtain knowledge, and etc. We are an advancing species. We were given brains with the purpose of using them, whether that be to grow or to create or to develop new innovations and find solutions to problems, to protect. This leads me to the development of PGD, pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. It is the investigation of each embryo and detects if it is male or female, allowing you to choose the sex of your child. It has nearly 100% success rate. It prevents X-linked diseases from spreading and allows for family balancing. In order to prolong the human race, we need to maintain health. Sex selection is opening the door for new technologies to advance our species. It would be irresponsible to leave all things to chance.
All right, remember you guys face each other for eye contact. And you guys now have the floor for your 4 minutes for arguments for.
So our first argument would be the cost. The cost of choosing the sex is not cheap. Depending on the process you choose, it could pay up to as much as $20,000 or more.
So our second argument is creating a male society. So evidence and firstborn have stronger future ahead of them. So evidence has suggested that the firstborn child are more likely to succeed. With that being said, most couples won't be there first. If couples are allowed to select the gender of their child, this can create a male-dominant society. And the advantages of being the firstborn child go mainly to the males. So this will upset not only the male-female ratio in the world, but it will also help our society's efforts to create a gender-equal world. And then our fourth one is religion. Religion does not stand for this kind of choice. From a Christian's perspective, the child is a gift from God and should always be regarded as an individual, not as an extension of parental consumer choice.
Okay, so those are your 4 arguments. Okay, back to this side now. You guys have 4 minutes for your rebuttal.
So you said for choosing your gender, if a certain societies are biased against one gender, that is not the fault of the technology itself, but rather the ingrained attitudes that should be corrected. And in China, let's say, for example, that they have like discrimination towards women. But a 2006 study, fertility or sterility, it says it is unlikely to have a significant impact on natural sex ratio, and that stems from the entire world, not just China. And with that going on, China, let's say for an example, like they have that one gender ratio, right? So they're biased to the females because they feel the males should have like work and carry on the name and etc. They're more valued citizens. But Chai Lang, the vice director of Chinese Academy of Social Science, states, "We will fully relax the policy in 2 years." So this is meaning that they're aware of the negative effects it has on the country and the economy, and so they are going to change the laws because they see that there is negative effects to that.
Another thing that you should take into consideration is that with the addition of choosing the sex for your child, we could potentially lead it to something as big as the control of population growth. As we've seen over the past 3 years, we have had a marvelous rise in population growth. With this, we could also create and lower that population growth if we decided which sex of child we could have and regulate that into our system.
So we talked about the cost of it. The cost for gender, like that would be good because it would create a balance, right? Because let's say, for example, one abuses it and it's affordable for everyone, right? That's where you get the gender imbalance. But if you raise the price for it too, that would create more of an imbalance because it's not easily accessible for everyone.
And how you guys were talking about how religion views it. That is true that a lot of religions do view the children as God's creations, and you do have your beliefs by all means, but also some religions are starting to realize that that too could be factoring in for a negative effect with how they now view, how some religions now view children as being, I would say, the parents of creation rather than God's.
So there's 4 points there. So now you take a minute to prep before we get into the open debate. Okay. Getting into the open debate. All right, so I'll take whoever wants to put their hand up first. Sadie, go ahead.
So you said it wasn't accurate, but studies show that there's almost 100% accuracy for PGD.
Okay. What study said that?
Pardon?
What study shows that?
Feel free to keep on going while she looks that up, you guys.
Guess I'll just put up my hand.
Go ahead, Campbell.
With the addition to also having the control of the population growth, we can save on resources such as like food, water, because now recently studies have shown that the glaciers up north are are starting to melt, and we are almost running out of water, which means that we won't be able to feed a lot of people anymore. We won't be able to give a lot of people clean drinking water anymore, which with the control of the sex of your child would increase or decrease the population growth, and we would still be able to use our resources.
Amanda, go ahead.
So controlling elective sex selection, you are not controlling the amount of children that are being born. You're controlling the sexes individually that are being born. So regardless, the population's going to grow. It's the sexes within that are in control. We also have another one, the costs. The costs are really high, yes, and we think that there's a way better chance that you could spend it on something so much better, like your child's education, instead of creating this child in a test tube. We think there's so many things, and like sometimes you can get health care stuff if you're trying to avoid passing on disease and stuff like that, but that's the only coverage you get. So this is coming out of your pocket, and you could save that money and you could help this child's life, whether it is a girl or a boy, but instead you're choosing to spend it on creation.
Back to accuracy, it's from the Gender Selection Center website.
And you say it's 100% accurate?
Nearly 100% accurate.
It's 99% accurate. What's that 1% gonna do?
In most cases, it's probably about 75%.
And also that is the most expensive version of it. So the cheaper extensions of it, sex selection, is not as effective. So if you're going to pay $20,000 to create a child, which has its downfalls too, because there are health reasons within the own process. If you separate sperm and the female and the male, and then you dye it, within that dye it can cause what is that? It can cause genetic defects within that. So this process is not only inhumane, but it's also costly. It's not accurate. It's not healthy for the child necessarily.
So, yes, there is that 1%, but it also, doing the PGD, it helps us with X-linked diseases. So let's say the mother carries the X chromosome, which is recessive. If she has a child, let's say she has 4 children, then if a boy was born, they would have a 50% chance of having the disease, which then have a 50% chance of having daughters who carry the mutated disease or mutated gene, and the cycle never ends. So if you can prevent it before it happens, then that ends that cycle. So you'd be able to stop diseases too before they start.
So with that, if you have a daughter, she will most likely carry the gene, and then it will carry on. If you have a son, he will most likely have that gene, and it's effective. So either way, 50-50, that gene is probably still going to be there.
But if you find healthy cells, when you put the male and female together, it will stop that. You won't be creating a boy or a girl that has that recessive gene in it.
Campbell, you had your hand up?
Yes, one thing I'd like to bring up is you said that the process was inhumane, and I just don't kind of understand with the way you described it how inhumane it is if you're still having a full created child, then the scientists are doing everything right, so then how is it still inhumane? Just from the way you described it, it seemed a little confusing.
Well, you'd want to have like a natural process.
Okay, finish your point there, Sam.
And you just want to be natural. Like, why would it matter if it's a boy or a girl?
That's too baby.
Yeah.
All right, so we're getting into our closing statements now for 2 minutes each, and we will start over here.
In conclusion, our studies and research show that this is one way that could lead to a positive outlet in the creation of human beings. yes, there are those who would say that it is very skeptical, but to us, I believe that it is one of the more, I don't want to say better ways, as some females cannot produce children. That just sounded worse. But it is, in my opinion, I should stop talking now.
Is there anything else you want to add, Sadie, in closing?
So when you choosing gender selection too, it helps decrease the rate of abortion. There's 23 million girls who are missing around the world, and this is a result of an abortion because they didn't have the child they wanted. So if you put gender selection into the mix, that would significantly decrease the amount of abortions that are going on. And China's National Health and Family Planning indicates more than 13 million abortions are going on each year. So if you are able to look at the sex before it's conceived, then you would stop all those abortions from happening. Abortions are linked to suicide, so it does a domino effect. If you prevent it before it happens, then a lot of those issues that come out of it afterwards would be stopped and prevented. So that's why we're for sex selection.
There's about 15 seconds.
Okay. All right, and your closing statements here on this side, please.
The process of selecting specific genders is inhumane. The decision to create a child for your own joys is wrong. You're trying to create a gender-equal society. If couples can choose a male or female, this will set back all of the process. All progress. And Dr. Mark Hughes, one of the pioneers of PGD in the U.S., expressed, "Your gender is not a disease. Last time I checked, there's no pathology, there's no suffering, there's no illness, and I don't think doctors have any business being there." So if a doctor that has helped pioneer such efforts does not agree with this process, how can you agree? And that's why I hate it. Yeah.
Whoever against choosing the sex of your child.
Okay. Great.